I know what it feels like to live a life separated from God. I really felt that I was supposed to continue doing what I was doing. You know, I was fighting crime. I was, preserving national security. I was doing everything that I felt I was called to do, but at the expense of my family. I had a small apartment in the Washington, D.C. area for 1 year, and 1 year turned into 2 years, and 2 years turned into 3 years, and 3 years turned into 4, and so on. And I just started having my own separate life in Washington, and just left my wife behind here. Eventually, our marriage deteriorated to the point where we were going to be divorced. My wife had an attorney, I had an attorney, and basically our marriage was over. My hours were just crazy hours. I went to work before the sun came up, and came home after the sun went down. One night I came home, and I was tired, as I always am, and after I ate, I ended up going to bed, and but I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't fall asleep, and I just tossed and turned, and just watched the clock keep on moving forward. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and so I got up, and I walked out to my kitchen area, and on the island I kept a Bible, and it's something that I hadn't read in a while. And so I picked up the Bible and just opened it up at random, and it opened up to a verse in the book of Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. And the caption for that verse was, "Do not be anxious." And so I started reading there at verse 25 all the way to the end of that chapter through verse 34. And I stayed up for the rest of the night just meditating on that and contemplating that. Eventually the sun came up, and when it did, the first thing I did was I picked up my phone and I called my boss and told her I was going to retire. And this was in the fall, and I said I'll ride out the rest of the year, but I'm going to start getting everything in order and just call it a career. I got involved in a local church in the D.C. area, and just to grow closer to God, to reconnect to God. And eventually, about 5 months later, I decided I needed to come back to North Carolina to be closer to my family. The first day I came back to move into my apartment, I went to my former home first and started to help my wife to prepare our house to be sold, because that was part of the divorce settlement to sell our house. We just spent the day talking and just talking and talking some more and asking a lot of questions and revealing a lot about each other. And anything she asked me, and I would just answer her. And we talked into the evening, and then my wife did something that was just totally unexpected on my part. She looked at me and said 3 words, and she said, "I forgive you." And it just blew me away. It just blew me away. Didn't expect it, didn't see it coming, and I don't even know what that meant. And we just continued to talk more, and I eventually just fell asleep there in my house. And she didn't make me leave, and I stayed there again and again. And in fact, I never moved into the apartment until after we sold our house and my wife moved into the apartment with me. I didn't have time for my family. I didn't have time for God. I had a mission, and my focus was on accomplishing that mission. My focus was me and my work, and not God. Now, it's all about Him, and I live for Him, and I just want to serve Him and honor Him and do what He calls me to do, not what I want to do. And I do that willingly and lovingly. And I mean, He took me, this broken guy who turned his back on Him, and He never turned His back on me. So when I look at my life today, I contrast it with where I've been living in a box. And now, although sometimes I tell my wife I still feel like I'm living back in a box, but I'm living in a box that's filled with just love and grace. She's there. I actually have furniture I can sit on. I have a table I can sit at, and we eat meals together, and we do everything together. And it's like living life with your two best friends, right? You have my wife, who is my best friend, and we have Christ, who's our best friend. And it's just a wonderful place to be.